I have to tell you straight away that this is one of my favorite cards in this deck, just because the painting is so detailed and beautiful. I love the plants in the background, they are sketched like in an old botany book. And this card took quite a long time to complete. This is what Lady Frida Harris, who painted the cards, says about it in a letter to Aleister Crowley. The Prince of Discs is a devil. I've been a whole week on him, and he's engendering a nervous breakdown in me, coupled with starvation, as he gives me no time to eat. He is a bastard. However, I hope I have caught him today. He swells and swells, and I can't get him in the picture with all the farm produce and bulls you suggest. And I love these little glimpses into the artistic process that we get from her letters. And we can only wonder about what the instructions were and how many more bulls were supposed to be in this card. So we have all the vegetation in the background, and we also have all of the round-shaped objects in our prince's chariot. And they kind of remind me of fish eggs. They definitely look like organic matter. As all princes in this deck, the Prince of Discs is naked. And he is not holding the reins, but in this case, the reins are looped around his elbow rather than his wrist, as with the other princes. His animal companion is a bull that looks very determined about going in a certain direction. Like other princes, he is letting his animal, or in other words, his instinct, guide him on his path. Hello, my name is Beata. Welcome to another episode of my Thoth series. In this one, we are talking about the Prince of Discs. If you find my videos valuable, you can show your support by becoming a patron or with a one-time donation through PayPal. All links are in the video description below. Thank you very much for considering this. Your support allows me to continue making these videos for you. Okay, let's get back to the Prince of Discs now. Let's hear what Crowley tells us about what the Prince of Discs looks like. The figure of this prince is meditative. He is the element of earth become intelligible. Clothed in light armor, his helmet is crowned with the head of a bull, and his chariot is drawn by an ox, this animal being peculiarly sacred to the element of earth. In his left hand he holds his disc, which is an orb resembling a globe, marked with mathematical symbols, as if to imply the planning involved in agriculture. In his right hand he bears an orbed scepter surmounted by a cross, a symbol of the great work accomplished. For it is his function to bring forth from the material of the element that vegetation which is the sustenance of the spirit itself. Okay, so we have quite a few things to talk about here. And first, let's just say that this is one of the examples where the description doesn't fully match the card, because it mentions here light armor and our prince is naked. So it must have been decided later that all of the princes will be portrayed this way. And we find out that the figure of our prince is meditative, and you can see if you look closely that his eyes are closed. So he is contemplating his plans and he's coming up with practical solutions, while the ox, whose eyes are very bright and wide open, leads the way. We have a winged head of a bull on our prince's helmet because he rules 2 decans of Taurus. And in heraldry, a bull symbolizes valor, while wings symbolize protection. So his helmet shows us that as a warrior, our prince will be very brave, but he will be focused on protecting himself from danger rather than seeking out and attacking someone else. The disc he is holding, the symbol of his suit, is actually an orb here. And we can see that there is a cube in the middle of it, again showing us the platonic solid associated with the element of earth. And I explain Platonic solids in my video about the Eight of Wands. So this orb here is showing us his ability to plan and to understand the element of earth, but in a mathematical way. He is able to apply scientific knowledge in practice in order to get tangible results. So we can see here the contrast with the Prince of Swords, who has a lot of theoretical knowledge, but is lacking the ability to put it into practice. He doesn't have the patience to see the idea through to fruition. Prince of Discs has all the patience in the world to make things work. And we will see it in a moment when we start to talk about the decans assigned to him. Let's have a look at his scepter now. It has a globe with a cross on top of it, and you probably recognize this as a symbol of authority held in the right hand by monarchs. The scepter in this card looks like the British royal scepter, with a plain orb and this characteristically shaped cross that is used in all British crown jewels. And you might be right in thinking that it looks a bit like the Iron Cross, because these two crosses have the same ancestor. So this is a cross pâté, which disappointingly has nothing to do with food. Croix pâté in French means a footed cross, because each of the wider ends looks like a foot. And we mean here an animal foot or a foot of a chalice, for example. And this type of cross starts appearing in very early medieval art throughout Europe. Crowley tells us that the scepter is a symbol of the great work accomplished. And great work means alchemy. But it also relates to the most important goal of our spiritual path. Most of us probably understand this as enlightenment. And the rest of that quote tells us what is the function of our prince: to bring forth from the material of the element that vegetation which is the sustenance of the spirit itself. So his task is seen as bringing out the sustenance of the spirit from matter. And you can imagine here someone that reaches a meditative state through physical activity, like running, for example. Or someone who is in the flow of working on something very intricate. And you probably experienced something like that in your life. And this can be achieved when you are, for example, drawing something or when you are solving a jigsaw puzzle. You are focused on something very material, but it gives you this amazing headspace and a feeling similar to being in meditation. The last element of the card that I would like to mention here, before we get to talking about the decans, is what powers the chariot. And we can see a round object here that reminds me of a ball bearing. And we have 13 visible balls here, and this points us again to the 13th path on the Tree of Life, the path of the Empress. And this path was also an influence in the Queen of Discs card. The Empress shows us the abundance of nature. So even though what is powering the chariot looks very mechanical, there is a power of nature behind it, because all matter is very much alive. Let's have a look now at the decans that our prince rules over. He rules from the 21st degree of Aries to the 20th degree of Taurus. And his first decan, the last decan of Aries, is ruled by Venus. This is the Four of Wands. And we can see straight away that he will be able to accomplish a lot, and he will be able to bring his plans to fruition. This decan gives him some fiery energy, and without this influence, he would be too passive. This decan also shows us his subtlety and cleverness. He is able to act tactfully and diplomatically to achieve his goals. His second decan, the first decan of Taurus, is ruled by Mercury, and this is the Five of Discs. Normally, this card would be showing us some trouble in financial or material side of our life, but here, Together with his two other decans, it has a milder effect. It shows his ability to persevere through difficulties. He is not going to give up just because the task seems impossible. Crowley tells us about him. The character denoted by this card is that of great energy brought to bear upon the most solid of practical matters. So if anyone can go through the energy of the Five of Discs and come out victorious, it will be him. Let's now listen to the rest of this quote. He is energetic and enduring, a capable manager, a steadfast and persevering worker. He is competent, ingenious, thoughtful, cautious, trustworthy, imperturbable. He constantly seeks new uses for common things and adapts his circumstances to his purposes in a slow, steady, well thought out plan. So we can see here that he can make this difficult energy work very well for him because he has the patience, the endurance, but also ingenuity and cleverness. And this is a perfect mix that makes his character quite well rounded. And we will see another confirmation of this in another quote in just a moment. But first, let's have a look at his last decan. The last decan of our prince, the second decan of Taurus, is ruled by the moon, and this is the Six of Discs. This energy gives him all that he needs to enjoy an abundant and successful life. He doesn't have to be very rich, but he can create a life for himself that will feel abundant to him. The moon is exalted in Taurus, and this placement has a very fertile and potent energy. It's associated with being able to manifest what we want in life, but this energy is also associated with agriculture and the abundance of nature. And this is why we have all of the plants in the background and all of those organic shapes in the chariot. His energy is teeming with life. So we can see here the overwhelming positive influence from the Four of Wands and the Six of Discs, and these two cards are enhancing these few positive aspects of the Five of Discs. In this setting, the Five of Discs will give us its best qualities, like being able to stay focused and try to keep finding new ways of dealing with a situation, even if everything is against us. Let's hear what else can Crowley tell us about the character of our prince. He is lacking almost entirely in emotion. He is somewhat insensitive and may appear dull, but he is not. It so appears because he makes no effort to understand ideas which are beyond his scope. He may often appear stupid and is inclined to be resentful of more spiritual types. He is slow to anger, but if driven, becomes implacable. It is not very practicable to distinguish between the good and evil dignities in this card. One can merely say that in case of his being ill-dignified, both the quality and quantity of his characteristics are somewhat degraded. The reaction of others to him will depend almost entirely upon their own temperaments. So we can see here again the echo of the same type of character flaw that we already noticed in the Knight and Queen before him. He can be resentful of spiritual people. He makes no effort to understand something that he can't explain in a rational way. So he might be quite dismissive of anything that is not grounded in predictable and measurable results. Again, as the Knight and Queen before him, he is not a very emotional person, but he will be very helpful and caring in a practical way. He has an influence from both the Moon and Venus among his decans, but the Moon is quite grounded in Taurus, and Venus is quite feisty in Aries. And these two placements are balanced. The energy is not overly emotional, but he will have more access to his emotions than the knight. Let's also have a look at his elemental attribution. As a prince, he is first and foremost associated with the element of air. Because he is in the suit of discs, his secondary element is earth. He is therefore the heir of earth. And this is how Crowley explains it. The Prince of Discs represents the airy part of earth, indicating the fluorescence and fructification of that element. So because air and earth are opposite elements, air brings an active component to earth, and the result is the flowering or developing richly and fully. Earth becomes ready to produce fruit. Now I'm going to tell you a bit about how to interpret this card in divination. The Prince of Discs has a very steady and reliable character. He is responsible and he thinks about others. He's intelligent, but he is also not afraid of hard work. He is able to adapt to any circumstances, and he can continue to work on a given problem patiently and systematically. And this can be someone who enjoys physical activity, someone who likes being outdoors, maybe likes hiking or running. Also, it can sometimes be someone who is really into bodybuilding and nutrition, or someone overly focused on their physical fitness. In work-related readings, this card can show us a very good employee, someone skilled and with a practical, no-nonsense approach. This person is a problem solver, and they might come up with great new ideas for your company. In terms of jobs that our prince would be good at, we can mention an engineer, because he is technically minded, and he could also be an architect. We know that he loves nature, so he could be working in agriculture, but he will probably be approaching it from a more technical and scientific side. And I can definitely see him as someone who is really into permaculture, constantly fine-tuning his land to be just right. He can also be a personal trainer, someone who is giving advice on both your physical activities but also proper nutrition. And this could also be a massage therapist, a physical therapist, because he has a deep understanding of all things physical. And that, of course, includes our bodies. In relationships, the Prince of Discs can be a good and reliable partner. He is not overly emotional, but he can be caring and responsible. And you know what you stand on with him. He is quite predictable in his love life. Like the Knight of Discs, he is also quite a calm person, but will be brave when he is forced to defend himself or his loved ones. If the Prince of Discs shows up in your reading as advice, he will be encouraging you to take a practical approach to your problem. Don't get discouraged, keep on working on the task at hand, and be patient. You will be able to find a solution. But this card doesn't really have a negative meaning, so as an obstacle, it will just be showing you that you are lacking some of the qualities needed to complete what you started. And maybe you just don't have enough patience and you are a bit discouraged. Among movie characters who fulfill this archetype, we can mention Hermione Granger, played by Emma Watson in Harry Potter. And she is very intelligent, she never gives up, and she always comes up with the best ideas. And I think we can also mention here Walter White, played by Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad. He discovers that there is a very profitable, but also very illegal way of making sure his family is secured financially, and he methodically works towards achieving this goal. Unfortunately, also forgetting in the process what was his original intention, and he's getting a bit carried away with his newfound power and status in the crime world. And my favorite one on the list has to be Angus MacGyver, played by Richard Dean Anderson in TV series MacGyver. If you're younger, you might not know what I'm talking about, but let me just tell you, it was epic. So, MacGyver's middle name should be resourceful because he can escape any impossible situation, most likely by using a paper clip, a chewing gum wrapper, or any other random objects that he finds around him. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and please remember to like the video, leave a comment, and of course, subscribe to my channel. I would like to thank everyone who is already supporting the channel. I appreciate your help very much. And as always, if you find my videos valuable, you can show your support by becoming a patron or with a one-time donation through PayPal. All links are in the video description below. Thank you very much for considering this. Your support allows me to continue making these videos for you. Once again, thank you all for today, and I will see you in the next video about the Princess of Discs very soon. Thank you. Bye.